Good evening, everyone. This is The Mind at Your Business, airing on KOPN, Columbia, Missouri's community radio. And we have with us Trina Brunk, who's going to open the program up with a musical program. Go ahead, Trina.
All right, thank you. It's so good to be here. And can you hear my guitar okay?
Yeah.
Guitar's okay, good. Okay, yeah, I wanted to just share a song about what happens when we show up in the unknown and fully show up. This is a song, it's called I Don't Know What to Sing. I don't know what to sing. I can't think of anything. And I don't know what to say. It's all blown away. But I know how to fly into a blue sky. And I know how to move with the tide. I don't know what to sing. I can't think of anything. All of my songs have been sung deep into the night. I don't know what to do with this emptiness. Maybe I'll lie for a while next to you. La 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 I don't know who I am, but maybe I don't need to know. 'Cause that never one moment stopped me from being me. But now that I think of it, maybe I'm just a melody. There's nothing to figure out, just open my heart and sing. I can dive into what's wordless and wild and wonderful, waking into a different kind of wise. I don't know what to sing. I can't think of anything. And I don't know what to say. It's all blown away. But I know how to fly into a blue sky. I know how to move with the tide.
Thank you, Trina.
Wow, thank you.
Trina Brunk. We're going to open up here with introductions. My name is Doug Bannister, and to my left is Josh Stevens. Josh, would you give yourself an intro? Give us an intro.
Sure.
Yourself.
Yeah, I co-host Farm and Fiddle every Wednesday night on KOPN with Margot and Rhett. And I'm an ecologist that lives here in Columbia and just work on permaculture and gardening and forest gardening and forest management projects. And I like to come on this show and help Doug out, and talk about these subjects that we explore every month.
Mhm. Thanks, Josh. Trina, would you say something? Now that you've
Yeah.
sung something.
Yeah. So I'm a transformation coach and a hypnotherapist and a singer-songwriter. And yeah, I'm a student of life. Yeah, I kind of like to geek out on consciousness. So I was really excited to come and join you and play in that field.
I'm happy to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks for
Emily
having me.
Arth.
My name's Emily Arth. I am a psychotherapist, an educator, and a creator. I own Empowered Life here in town, which is my private practice where I'm a trauma therapist. And I am an active member of the community in Columbia, Missouri. I can be found flitting about in all kinds of places.
You're a wonderful connector, Emily. Thank you for being here tonight.
Definitely.
My name is Doug Bannister once again, and I live here in Columbia. I've been the director of the School of Metaphysics here for a few years, and Diana Kenny, my wife, does that now. I sit on the board of the School of Metaphysics headquartered in Windyville, Missouri. We have 12 schools in our network, mostly in the Midwest. And that headquarters is on a 1,500-acre tract near Bennett Springs State Park. And I'm instrumental there in a prosperity and abundance movement that I refer to as regenerative agriculture, which is really paying attention to nature in all of its various forms and living in harmony with the land. So we've chosen a theme for tonight, and that theme is, Josh, would you?
Yeah, there was a question we were tossing around after some discussion, and the question that we came up with is, can we claim that we are capable?
Can we claim that we're capable? And we each may have a little different take on that, those words put together as a whole thought. What motivated us is looking at how can we help people to become more, to realize more of their potential. And we found that a basic stumbling block was feeling that we're lacking, that I am lacking in some way or another. And very often, whatever that sense of lack is, gets transferred to other areas of our life beyond the situation at hand. Like if I'm asked to go to a public function and there's a dance, when I think to myself, I'm not a good dancer. Well, then I'm uncomfortable, I'm inadequate, blah, blah, blah. And that basic thing can transfer into other areas of my life. And so how can we help relieve that negativity? Because it's not true. I may not be an all-star dancer, but if we can walk, we can dance. If we can talk, we can sing. And we're all somewhere on the continuum of expertise, or what as a group consciousness considers expertise, and everything that comprises life. And so in that discussion we were having, we talked about liking ourselves. What can we do to like ourselves? And just that basic notion seems very comforting for one, seems very nurturing, almost like enveloping ourselves in liking ourselves, accepting ourselves. And so if we can counteract the negativity that we sometimes take on, whether we learned it as children or inherited in the professional world, somewhere along the line, we owned this thought that becomes a limitation. So the idea of liking ourselves by way of claiming what we're capable of can go a long ways towards dismantling that notion. And so I'm going to ask each of you as we take our turns here going around us, if there might have been a pivotal moment, or what do you think about that concept in general, And so maybe while I have this opportunity, I'll share one little story where I it was pretty remarkable for me because um, while we all have a sense of what we can do and have capability with something, at times we may be challenged. And I remember coming back from Vietnam without really any money and then no real job. I mean, I was in infantry, so my skills from that skill set weren't very transferable to the civilian life. I couldn't go around exercising what I'd learned in the Army um, in society. And I hadn't established a concrete business yet. So it was kind of at a loss. And I remember with some level of defiance saying that I deserved to have a color TV. And we ended up with just a little portable color TV, small one. But the act isn't as important as the intention and the coming to the realization that I demand this for myself. And that was my experience or situation in my first recognizable encounter with claiming. I claimed that I deserved to have a colored TV. That's I know that sounds silly and very mercurial, very material. However, it was significant. I stated something. So I wonder if any of you have had an experience kind of like that, or hopefully different.
Yeah, definitely. I can speak to that. Well, I mean, when you were talking, sort of prefacing the intro about the thoughts of I'm not enough or I don't deserve this or I'm something bad, that's an area of expertise for me. I know a lot of people have heard about Brene Brown, and I'm a facilitator of her work, which is all about shame resilience. And so the emotion that's attached to those beliefs is shame. And shame is the most toxic emotion that we can experience because it attaches itself to our identity. And in terms of vibrational frequency, shame is the lowest we can vibrate before we're physically dead, which is why so many people who are in chronic shame think about wanting to be dead. And so for me, going back to this, was there ever a moment, I became a trauma therapist because I have a chronic history of trauma myself. And I remember when I was in my early 20s, really identifying this pattern, this intergenerational pattern of trauma that was happening. And I actually was having a conversation with my father about some of our dynamics. And I remember saying to him, I just want you to know that this stops with me. And that, looking back, was a pivotal moment for me where I was claiming whatever these things are, right, that are keeping me from my capability, that kept all of you from your ultimate capability. I'm using my power to say no more. And whatever it takes to stop that, I'm committing myself to making that happen so that I can claim my power.
Let me ask you, Emily, and all of our panelists may have a question for you. And how did you do that? How did you implement that? Stating it is one thing. The important thing, you came to the acknowledgement that you were going to do something different. How did you go about it?
Well, I mean, I started my own formal healing journey, which really did first start with psychotherapy, but that branched out into all different things because, like everyone here on this panel, I know we've all had our own ascension journey. And you know that once you start that journey, things start happening. And, we're a complex being. So you can start in one place, but every part of you is going to be affected. And so I just really intuitively followed where my path took me. And it's taken me to many different healers, many different healing modalities, traditional and non-traditional. And so that's how, and it continues. I'm not done. I won't ever be done. But that's been my journey.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Josh, what do you have to say about
That's true.
Well, Trina's thinking about
Okay.
Unless you have something right there.
Well, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic,
Good.
actually more than I thought I did. Um, Pulling them together in a way I can talk about them. You know, am I capable of pulling all these swirling thoughts together into a nugget? We'll see. Yeah, really appreciating what each person has been saying. I've been recently studying something called the self-concept model. It's an NLP model created by Steve Andreas, and it's looking at how we create the map of ourselves, how we see ourselves. It's like the collection of beliefs that we have that shapes how we filter our experience and decide, am I capable? Am I not? And you know, personal experience, thinking about how this plays out in personal experience. I grew up with a mother who, you know, as you, I think you may know, I'm one of 9 kids, and my mother, physically small lady, uh, but you know, in a lot of ways, she can, you know, leap tall buildings with a single bound, and she is amazing dynamo. She's you know, every single one of my siblings will tell you how amazing mom is and how capable she is. And I grew up like kind of feeling like I'm kind of in her dust, you know, not really able to keep up, and not feeling very capable actually. So the data that I got was I'm not going to ever be able to keep up with my mom. But then going out into the world and getting the reflection from a lot of other people, it's like, wow, Trina, is there anything you can't do? And that was like such a shock. It kind of didn't register that I'm capable too, except, you know, gradually, like as life happens and you get thrown into the hot water and you realize, oh, I have resources. I can handle this bit by bit. Starting to build the self-concept for myself, that says that I am capable. I may not have the skills to do what I want to do, but I can see what it is that I value. And I know that I have, through experience, I know that I've done what it takes to get the experience so that I can become capable. So I'm capable of becoming capable in a way. But thinking about like the relationship of like of our self-concept with shame, for example, when we have those places where we feel badly about ourselves, there's the idea that this happens when our self-concept, how we see ourselves, does not align with what we value. Okay, so I'm not good at being an auto mechanic, but that doesn't bother me because I don't really value that, you know. But it may bother me if I have had a pattern of being reactive and I haven't figured out how to deal with that. So the fact that I value being able to keep my cool means that if I'm able to align my self-concept, you know, and my behavior that supports my self-concept with what I value, then I'm going to be a lot more fulfilled, a lot happier, if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Congruence, integrity, integral things relating to supporting the main idea or the idea of who we are. So the actions, the thoughts and the actions have to follow through if we're going to realize that fulfillment. Yeah, great.
Is it my turn?
I think so.
So you're looking at me for. Moments in my life, there's so many moments in my life where I can look back and say it's because I believed I was capable and it just happened. And you know, that's one of the fun things is to look back and see, you know, what those things that they were really unimaginable, and yet they came to be because you had some belief. For me personally, like there's so many moments, but I know when I started my business up, like all obstacles just moved out of the way. The universe just opened up and gave me exactly what I needed when I needed it for a really sustained period. And when I reflect back, I spent a long time, a lot of years wanting to open a business. And so I just had this really deep desire. And then when it happened, I worked all the time. It was a lot of struggle, but at the same time, um, the capabilities were there and proven. Mhm.
Something you came to own. I mean, you claimed it. You claimed your ability to create.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a powerful thought process of accepting who we are, that we are capable, that we're competent, maybe that we're confident. And over time, there can be an ease with that. As a young guy, I charged ahead, and I was probably bolder than I am now. And there's not a need for that aggressive energy. I've accepted more of who I am and where I am, and I don't make excuses except when I'm defending myself in conversations with Diane. We're metaphysicians, so we're always looking at going deeper with our thoughts and our actions and our beliefs, and can we get free of prejudice, that sets up the negativity within us that actually becomes a limitation. And so I think, and so let me try this out on you guys. How important is honesty in this process of claiming who we are, that we're capable? Emily, do you have an idea about that?
Well, I mean, I was thinking about that when you were talking about your business and how things moved out of the way for you to start your business. And I think that for a lot of us, though there's the capability always there, sometimes clarity is the obstacle. For me, I worked for a long time in systems that didn't really serve my highest good. And I felt that, I felt that in my body. But because I didn't have clarity on what it was that I wanted, that I didn't know that for me, I didn't know that I wanted freedom so badly. But then when I got clear on that and I finally gave myself permission to be honest with the fact that that's what I wanted, despite how other people in my life felt about that at the time, then I had to exercise the courage to step into that, which was initially very terrifying. But I experienced the same thing, that the universe just made a way. And so I think sometimes we have ideas in our society that in order to achieve things, it's hard. And I think personally, it has had more to do with alignment than difficulty, because the things that were aligned actually came with absolute ease. It's the things that I think I need to do or I get stuck on doing, and then all these obstacles are coming up and it's hard. And I'm resisting maybe being honest with myself in that situation, in saying maybe I need to step back and look at what I'm pushing for and whether or not it's truly in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really appreciating what you're saying there, Emily. Making the distinction between self-esteem and other esteem. Am I valuing what I'm valuing, or am I valuing what other people think or what other people value? Feels really important. Yeah. And I've got a song about it if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is called I Am Willing. Can you hear the piano okay? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And this song actually came from a conversation. I was talking with a group of friends, and Cameron Etheridge and David Owens We're sitting next to each other on the couch, and I was commenting on Cameron, what he was saying. He was talking about how he had gone through some like serious difficulties and accomplished something that really before that point he didn't know that he could do. And I asked him, what did it take? Like what made you um, call forward those resources? And he said, I was afraid of heights, so I climbed the mountain. And David, sitting right next to him, said, and I was afraid of the dark, so I turned out the lights. So I said, there's the song there. I was afraid of heights, so I climbed the mountain. Was afraid of the dark, so I turned out the lights. And I sang my song, though my voice was shaking, 'cause the love that's in me can see through the night. And I'm willing to live from my passion, and I'm willing to breathe through the fears, and I'm willing to move past resistance, 'cause there's life here in me being birthed through the tears, and I'm willing. And I'm willing, I am willing, I am willing, I will. And when the morning comes and the night is over, everything now seems so easy and clear. You and I know what it took us to get here, and we'll never again be ruled by our fears. And I'm willing to live from my passion, and I'm willing to breathe through the fears, and I'm willing to move past resistance, 'cause there's life here in me being birthed through the tears, and I'm willing, I am willing, I am willing, I will. I am willing, I will.
Wow.
Mhm. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. The act of willing. I'd like us to talk about that, each one of us, if we can. What are the pros and what are the not so pros about this strong-willed or willingness or saying yes? I've kind of made a study of that, but I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about it.
Well, Doug, I know that you are a Capricorn. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Speaking of willing, and I'm a Capricorn rising. So I would say that for me, this act of like willing something to happen is a double-edged sword,
Oh,
that there can be such a beauty to conviction, you know, and to making things happen through will. But there can equally be a downfall to it, because I think that we have to be in that flow. We have to be in those cycles. And sometimes when we're willing something to happen, at least for me, it can make my process harder than it needs to be, when actually I'm supposed to be in a resting inward kind of cycle. And I'm like, but no, it needs to happen now. I need to will this to happen. So it's marrying those two energies together and learning how to flow with them and go forward when I need to, but also put on the brakes when I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Trina, what are you thinking about that?
Oh, wow, yeah. So it's interesting because I hadn't thought of the song in terms of like willing something to happen, like with willpower, as much as being like, I consent to this life that's inside of me as it's expressing itself. So I think for me, there's a little bit of a difference, but I'm so right there with you with really being able to have the discernment about how to pace myself so that this energy that's wanting to come through me and be manifest in whatever form, that I'm honoring the pace, the rhythm that's necessary. Um, and right. I don't know how to say that. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
You said it well.
Well, I was going to say, in response to what you said about the song, I guess I was beyond the song at that point, but the song for sure, I take that type of willing as I'm allowing,
Mhm.
right? I'm consenting, I'm opening to.
Yeah, it's about acceptance, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with both Emily and Trina. You know, it's a merging of the energy. There's a right time and there's a right place. And, you know, there's a skill about knowing when to ride that wave and when to hunker down and wait or focus on something that is more energetically available.
Yeah, I learned a valuable lesson in being willful in business. After 4 years of college and 3 years in the Army, I was anxious to express myself. Wasn't interested in joining a corporation or going back to school or anything like that. I wanted to get active, and concrete was a way for me to do that. So I started a concrete business in 71, and I grew it pretty quickly. And again, this urge to express myself brought me to bankruptcy because I wanted to will something to happen. I thought I could work harder and have it manifest. And what I learned in the 7 years following that was a sense of rhythm, an acceptance of myself, of my capabilities, and the power to say yes to the present moment. And I was able to create in a way that helped me include others in the picture, in the vision. And that was the big key, missing key in the first one, which was rather about my little self, rather egoic, making a name for myself, being an expert in something. And none of that really matters if we're not connected. And I've heard of each of you mention that sense of connectedness in one way, one form or another. And so to address this honesty issue that we each need to have, how do we look at, how do we make an honest appraisal of where we are, who we are, without being judgmental, with really being neutral with it, and using the honesty as a way to improve, as a way to be stronger, as a way to be more loving, even more vulnerable. And those words of stronger and vulnerable aren't opposing, they're all one and the same, the way I've come to see it. Kind of like you were talking about willing something, Emily, and Trina, you were saying consenting or allowing, accepting. So there's this dance, isn't there, with that we each need to choreograph in finding a balance and accepting who we are and still move forward, so that we're not just a very passive. We're here to create, and create's a word strongly associated with capability. We're able to bring something forward. would someone like to pick that up and move that ball?
Sure. Well, I was just thinking with the honesty, like working with a lot of people on self development, I think that it starts first with curiosity, that we can't get honest until we first just get curious. And curiosity, you mentioned judgment. Curiosity is the opposite of judgment. And it's correlated with intellectual growth, whereas judgment is correlated with zero intellectual growth. So if we get curious, just even sitting with ourselves and say, what's here? And then start asking, why is that here? That can bring us more to that place of honesty. But sometimes when we ask those questions, what's here, we immediately get scared or disgusted or whatever, and we want to run away from those things. And that, of course, is keeping ourselves from honesty. And so I think sometimes it's very vulnerable to sit in a space of honesty because we all have things about ourselves that are scary to face.
I'm thinking about what saying yes. What does it mean to be willing to say yes to the present moment? And honestly, looking at ourselves and maybe turning out the light anyway, being afraid and turning out the light anyhow, being afraid and climbing the mountain anyway. So I think if we say no, if we reject, there is no movement. I think you're right about that, Emily. There isn't. What are you going to do with no? You sit in your own mess with no. Whereas a willingness to say yes opens doors. And can we be honest as we grow and not fault ourselves for learning? Previously known as mistakes, making mistakes. Well, no, it's not making mistakes, it's learning. Gaining experience, getting confidence in our ability to be capable.
Right. So we have to give ourselves permission, right, to do those things too. Like if we're going to be honest, we have to give ourselves permission to feel whatever's there, like in Trina's beautiful song with turning the lights out when you're scared of the dark. Well, that teaches you your capability, because how can you ever know what you're capable of unless you move the thing that you are telling yourself you cannot move? So like one of my friends the other day was talking about, oh, surprise, I have haters in my life. And he's a very peaceful person. And, so he said, but I got angry. Something came through the grapevine and I heard something terrible someone said about me and I got angry, and I just sat with that anger. I just sat in it. I didn't run from it. And we were talking about the gift of criticism. I said, well, haters are strength trainers. How can I know my strength if it's not tested? And the same thing with, the climbing the mountain. I'm afraid of heights, so I climb the mountain. Well, now I know what I'm capable of because I went directly into the thing that was telling me I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's arising for me as I'm listening to both of you is that if we're going to have the courage to face what we don't want to see in ourselves, I think that we have to have at some level an identification with ourselves as something beyond what we do and what happens to us, that we have to have an awareness of ourselves at some level as being beyond that, as being consciousness itself that's creating this identity, which is really just a map of all of the experiences that we've had. And so the question is the map reliable? Can the map tell me, what will be predictable about the terrain? And also, is it useful? Is it continuing to go back to the old mistake? Or can it also show me a way forward? I think that's what I'm hearing when I'm listening to you.
And does trust in yourself come up too? Faith this notion of faith, and what is that, and how do we use it, and can we coach it? Can we encourage it? Can we develop it?
Yeah, definitely. I talk about trust a lot with people. And I think what Trina said, right, about the roadmap, that for most of us, our hurts or our roadmaps, they're laid early on, those blueprints. And then we have to crack the code on whether or not they're getting us to where we want them to take us, or if we need a whole new roadmap. But the trust thing, yeah, if I keep following a map that leads me into a sinkhole, well, then my self-trust is going to suffer. And so, we have to be honest with ourselves, right? And become aware of, well, I keep using this same map and this same map keeps getting me to this place. But then rebuilding self-trust takes making new decisions. It's like, if I want to trust that I can eat healthy, and I've never done that before, I have to start eating healthy one meal at a time. And then one day I will live my way into trusting that I'm a healthy eater. And that's how we rebuild that.
Do you recall a moment when you realized that you said to yourself, I am a healthy eater? Did you ever say it out loud?
Maybe an affirmation, Doug. Do I fully believe it with every fiber of my being? No, not yet. I'm still working on it. But yes, well, like, okay, so I'm gluten-free. So 10 years ago, if you would have told me I was going to be gluten-free, I would have laughed in your face. I was like, I love my gluten. That's never going to happen. But now I've sat with that so long. I'm so present and aware and mindful of how that hurts me.
Yeah.
That it's not even a sacrifice at all. When I look at the food choices, I totally disregard anything that would hurt me. And so the lens that I'm seeing it through now is so different.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about compassion, making a compassionate choice, than it is about like, oh, I'm capable. But when I started making compassionate choices, it led me to realize I am capable.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems that we can talk about different methods and routes and journeys, and it's really about accepting ourselves and self-caring and honesty. And what do you think about the ideas of we're either born hardwired for creatorship or manifestation or joy or those things, or do we make those? Do we create those? Do we pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and by golly, we become those things? What do you have any ideas about what that is?
I think I'm not really sure, how much is hardwired and how much we get through our experience. But one thing that I think that I've observed in myself and also in the clients that I work with, it seems to me that there's one thing that seems to be inherent, which is what we value. And I think that, like, even when we feel really badly about ourselves, that's one way that we're seeing what we value. And so, like, if I'm feeling guilty that I have been dishonest or something, that's telling me that I value honesty. If I'm feeling badly because I'm not feeling connected with people, that's telling me how much I deeply value connection. I don't know how that could be possibly programmed in there. I mean, I don't know how I could program that. It seems to already be there, if that makes sense. What seems to be variable is my opinion about myself in relationship to connection or authenticity and honesty. If I feel like I'm being honest, then I'm going to feel good about myself because I value honesty. So I think that when we can move into a place of realizing that we're the ones who are creating our self-concept, then we can be the ones who can also say, all right, I see that I'm not being congruent with what I value, and I can take the steps to build the quality that is congruent with what I value, if that makes any sense.
You got that. I got this. Yes, I've reached this conclusion about myself. I could, and I got this. I can do it. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
the other part of, there's an honesty component, and then there has to be, okay, let's be motivational here and not condemning, or let's be positive or willing to move towards what it is I want, rather than berating myself for not. Right? Is that what you're saying?
I think that it's kind of like, what do I do with the data? I'm feeling really badly. What do I do with that? Do I punish myself? Or do I say, wow, I care very deeply about this, and I'm going to do what it takes to get aligned with that through my actions? And affirmations aren't going to work. I can affirm, yes, I'm honest, but if like all of my experience is screaming at me saying, no, Trina, you actually weren't honest, that doesn't really help. I'm going to feel worse because I'm not being honest about having been honest. But what I can start out by saying is, I care about being honest, and I care about doing what it takes to get honest. And day by day, I'm becoming more and more true to myself through my behavior.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with Trina about like when you're talking about hardwired. In my work around authenticity, we say that your core values are your authentic self. So, like me personally, my core values are belonging, wisdom, and creativity. So, when I'm living in the light of those values, I feel intrinsically motivated. I feel lit up from within. It doesn't feel like I'm pushing because I'm actually feeling pulled toward things. But in terms of the part of us that does get wired into the brain based off of our environment, there's been a lot of neuro research that shows that the inner critic part of us is very much wired into the brain based off of what we're surrounded by. So, if you're around a parent growing up who's very critical or doubting of you, who doesn't exercise things like empathy and compassion and forgiveness and understanding, then your ability to easily align with your own core values becomes harder. And that voice that you're talking about with affirmations, as Trina said, if I say I'm strong, but no part of me believes that, that's actually not effective at all. And there's been research on affirmations that using I am language is only effective when you truly believe what you're saying. However, there are loving kindness mantras, which are worded like a wish. And so, for things that you do not yet believe, these affirmations are much more effective in seeding that belief. So, if I don't believe I'm strong, instead, I want to affirm to myself, may I be strong. May I be at peace. May I be capable. And that's much more effective at leading me to the place where one day I can actually say I am capable and believe it.
I'm going to just really say yes, second that big time. And I'm also want to add on to that, that there are some other ways of using our self-talk in, in helpful ways and useful ways, such as I might ask my unconscious mind to show me times when I have demonstrated the quality that I say that I haven't. Maybe there are maybe very small examples where I have been strong, or where I have made healthy choices. And so to ask my unconscious to show me where I've done that, and then to use those as part of what I'm building from, and just affirm that I'm willing for those to grow. I'm willing to be spotting more and more of those. I'm willing to see more and more where I am this quality. And when I'm looking for these examples, they're going to show up. It's like the same thing when I'm inviting a client to deeply relax and they're like, I'm tense. What am I going to do? It's like, okay, so I want you to just scan your body and notice the part of you that is a little bit more relaxed than the others, just a tiny bit more relaxed than the others. Notice the most relaxed part in your body, and it can still be pretty tense, and so they're looking for where the most relaxed place is. And as they do that, their attention is scanning their body, they're going to be getting more and more relaxed. So there's a lot of fun ways of doing that.
Trina, what other ways when you ask your unconscious to show up, what other ways besides scanning the body might that, what do you see as evidence of what you've asked for?
So give me an example of where you might, anybody, give me an example of where you might be wanting to build a quality that you haven't experienced yourself exhibiting yet.
Well, I have lots of room to grow with empathy for someone, and there's an element of injustice that shows up for me where somebody's saying one thing and acting another.
Okay.
And that can be a trigger for me to judge rather than go deeper with it.
Okay.
And maybe like you asked, to see where their pain comes from or what's behind that.
So what I'd ask you to do in that situation where you're having a hard time having empathy for that person, the first thing that I would ask you to do is ask yourself if there's any place where you are actually behaving in the way that you're judging them for. And then I would ask you to see if there's some way that you can bring some empathy to yourself there.
Yeah.
Chances are, even in a micro way, if we're judging someone, it's really ourselves that we're judging.
It's a lot of relativity, isn't it?
I think so.
So there's a part of me that is asking for healing as I'm judging someone else. And if I can be honest enough to accept that and then want to adapt the thought processes that allows me to be more gentle and empathic, then I'm off to the races. I got a chance.
Chances are that there's going to be a place where you have not been congruent. I mean, you might be the only person on the planet who is completely congruent, but I doubt it.
Chances are, I'd take that bet. I would, yeah. And I remember an experience I had as a kid learning how to ride a bicycle. This was a little bicycle, but it was no helper wheels. I never had trainer wheels or whatever they're called. And I came to the back door with my pant knees blown out. I skinned them up. My knees were bloody. And I was expecting sympathy or something encouraging. And what my mom said to me through the screen door, never opening it up, said, well, when you learn how to ride that, let me know, I'll come watch. So at the time, and I did, I went with new conviction, got on that bike, and I said, by golly, I'm going to do this so mom can watch. Well, that set into motion a whole lot of things in my life, none of which was being empathic for anybody, including myself. I didn't nurture myself there. I used determination to accomplish something, and that became the script, a long-lived script in my life.
Well, and because she was also modeling, in that case, conditional love. I mean, she wasn't doing that willfully, right? But that's what she was doing. She was saying, I will give you what you want when you earn it. Instead of like, I'm just here to hold you when you fall. It doesn't matter what you do. It's unconditional, right? But she was showing you, well, go learn how to ride the bike and I'll give you the attention you're looking for.
And also showing me that there are ways to succeed. There are ways to create a life. So there's almost always this way to look at things. And there was another experience I had. I won't go into that because we're running short on time, aren't we, Josh? I know you've got
we're
more to
about
say.
I have plenty to say, but I'm afraid we're out of time.
Already?
Pretty much. Let me.
You want to do a brief wrap up for yourself?
Yeah, we got like 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
I want to hear more from Josh.
There, so much has been said. Something that I remember feeling called to speak on was the self-critic, the inner critic voice, the doomsday voice that says it's not going to work, you know, whatever I don't think I'm capable of. When I can catch myself there, when I can actually become aware that that voice is alive and well, I found it's best if I just laugh at it and then realize how dumb I am for listening to it, and then just figure out, you know, like I can do this, and it really happens that fast. And it took me some practice to get there, and I think that is part of it, is to kind of become the seeker. You know, whenever you focus on something, you start to notice it more. You know, you buy a certain car, and then all of a sudden you realize how many of that car model is out on the road. And so I think there's a lot to be said for turning your attention inside to actually doing the work and discovering just how capable you are. And so that kind of reflects back to the mantra work, and it definitely goes into music and lots of different therapies.
I want to thank everybody for contributing to this KOPN, the Mind It's Your Business program. Trina Brunk, Emily Arth, Josh Stevens, I'm Doug Bannister. We're signing off. Community Radio right here in Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you.
And